Hello and welcome to Paranormal Versus. I'm back again this week, which makes a change. And I'm here with my brilliant co-hosts, as usual, Michael Koff and Matt Atkinson. And we did have somebody scheduled in tonight to be guests, but unfortunately they couldn't make it. So we thought we'll just do it ourselves. We'll have a little bit of a chat, and if anybody's got any questions, stick it in the chat and we'll answer it the best we can. And I did say on the promo you can ask anything, and that still stands. So ask anything, have fun with it. Right, guys, how you been doing this week, apart from Matt, which I already know because he's in my sitting room?
Well, that's not fair.
Like, you could be in my dining room. Pretend you're in my dining room.
Been up to.
Michael's looked in the cellar.
Yeah.
The dungeon.
Careful, I might make that a nice home. I can make that comfy.
Right, so what have you guys been up to then this week? Anything? Nothing?
Well, I've been working on shows, and Tuesday night's show had a glitch where the guest couldn't log in on the computer, so we're hoping we have it fixed, and we'll be doing that episode tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central Time. That'll be John J. Davis.
Wow. Ooh, good guess.
The energy that surrounds us. And last night I went to go see the U.S. Navy Sea Chanters, which was a really cool show. And tonight I have Riding Through the Unknown, a pre-recorded episode with Dolly Indigo Star. And man, did we cover a lot of topics on that show. You guys are going to love that show. And Saturday, I have an interview at noon Central Time on the Melted Broadcast, a new show that's on the eTalk.tv network.
Wow.
Wow.
Cool.
So I've been pretty busy.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. Yeah.
Matt, I was just about to ask you that. Damn, viewers for it. I haven't really been doing anything paranormal. I've been working on stuff for an upcoming wedding of mine to a nameless guy. Just craft stuff and making the invitations and stuff like that. So it's a bit,
good.
That's about it.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, well, funnily enough, a similar kind of thing. Just assisting in helping a certain person do all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, not much paranormal stuff going on this week, really.
No,
I'll say, but yeah, it's been a busy week.
I love this because it'd be totally ironic if you guys weren't marrying each other and doing the same thing at the same time. I'm like, really?
Wow. Yeah. No, we've been busy doing all sorts, really. Yeah. There's a certain conspiracy theory that's been going around for the last I don't know how long, really. Quite a while, actually, one way or another. I don't know if you're sort of up to date with all of this in the US, Michael, and we don't want to say too much on here, do we? Just in case somebody decides to pull the plug. But there's a big thing
Which
going
one's
on.
that?
Yeah.
There's a big thing going on at the moment with the whole sort of Kate, Princess of Wales thing,
Oh,
where no one's actually seen any proper pictures of her since, I don't know, before Christmas, was it? Something like that.
Yeah, it was Christmas. Yeah.
Mm.
I
There was
actually watched a TikTok on that last night to where the lady was showing the current photos of Kate do not match the old photos.
Exactly.
Mm-mm.
Exactly. And they released a picture 3 or 4 days ago of her and Will apparently out shopping in Windsor somewhere. And it looks nothing like her. So we're just wondering whether the lookalikes are out now and they're trying to either send everyone, the media are trying to send everyone off down a rabbit hole or whatever. But it's all a
I
bit.
don't actually think it's the media, because the media are actually rejecting some of the photos that's been released.
That's
of them.
true.
So I
That's
don't
true.
think it's the media. I think it's obviously the establishment that's obviously. I don't know what it is, but there's something brewing.
Something's going on.
They're having to release something because too many people are asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
But there were rumors flying around social media before the weekend that there was gonna be a big royal announcement or something this week, and that hasn't happened yet. So we don't know what's going on.
I heard something about what that could be, and it goes with Nostradamus and his prophecies.
Spill the beans, Michael.
That the prince is not going to be king. He's going to step aside, and someone who is not supposed to be king will become king, and he's the last king of the land. And so when they put the pieces together, they look at it, and this lady was saying, well, Charles is stepping aside, not taking the throne. So who would be the one king that's not supposed to be king? Harry, who abdicated the prince title. If he becomes king, he would not have been in succession, because that means it passed his brother up.
Yeah.
And it would fulfill that prophecy. So
the thing is, so
is it going to be Harry?
I can't see it being Harry with all the controversy surrounding him and Meghan Markle and everything. So the one that it falls to next is William's son, his older son, George. So basically, he's too young to rule, so it would have to be a regency. That's what I'm thinking anyway. It'll have to be a regency. So, yeah. But
I don't know if it would fall to his son, because that would have meant he was king to start with, because the king's son, oldest son, gets it. And then it's divvied amongst the sons. Then it's the...
No, it's not. It's not. It's basically the oldest son and then the oldest son's heirs. So Harry's obviously behind the kids, all 3 kids.
Yeah, Harry's place has been pushed all the way back now since William's had children. Yeah.
It's been a while since I looked at the hierarchy.
Yeah. It's been like that for a while, but it would definitely fall down to George. Obviously, and a kid can't rule, so I'll say that.
I don't know. You guys have had kids rule?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Henry VIII's son, Edward V, he ruled for a short time, but obviously he had somebody in his place, and that was his uncle Edward Seymour. So, it was still the adult technically ruling. So,
yeah, but there have been children monarchs. And it's rare, but it has happened in medieval times.
Yeah.
So they could enact it.
Yeah.
He's just not old enough to actually rule in his own right. That's the only thing. It would have to be, have to have an adult. I think
Queen Anne was a 6-year-old king.
There probably has been. There's been like, what was her name? Mary Queen of Scots. Technically, I think it was her that was technically a queen at a young age, because I died young, and she was only about 1 or 2 years old. So,
Wow.
Yeah, so it all depends on what the country declares. If they declare him king, he can be king at any age.
Mm.
well, I think Princess Anne should be queen, to be fair, because I actually think she's one of the hardest working royals over here. So,
Yeah.
Actually, that was one of the points that the lady brought up in her TikTok video on who should be the next ruler was the sister, who is much more of a queen than any of the royals that have been around right now, and doing so much more for the country and
Mm.
doing the good name, so to speak.
yeah. So, have you heard of any other conspiracy theory apart from the royals this week?
I've heard a lot.
Come on then, Michael.
I mean, I do have the Writing Through the Unknown, which is a conspiracy show, so to speak. So, let's see. There's what was one that we were talking? Oh, here's one that you guys will find interesting. So, all of the gods in history, as we call them, like the Greek gods or the biblical God, even Adam and Eve and Lilith fall into this category.
Oh.
The Norse gods, the Celtic gods, all of them were actually Anunnaki gods.
Wow.
Yeah.
And changed
I've
their
heard that.
name. And so everybody we've been worshiping as a god is an Anunnaki. They're the same people. And the Anunnaki is not a race. Anunnaki are a bunch of races put together like in a collaboration, I found out.
Interesting.
So the Anunnaki, obviously they came to this planet, didn't they?
They're
Is that the whole
before
story?
Sumeria, yeah.
Yeah. So how did they get here?
Space.
Are they the ones that's meant to be from Nibiru, is it? Or Planet X?
Nibiru, yeah. Nibiru and Tiamat.
Because I've heard that apparently Nibiru's like meeting it's way back into the solar system at some point in the near future. So it's easier for them to get to Earth, so I've been told. But if they could cross, like, obviously the vast space and stuff like that, there would be people to come from any distance, really, wouldn't there?
That's true. And one of the interesting facts was Nibiru was originally the 10th planet in our solar system. And it only comes around so often. And so since all the prophecies talk about when the 10th planet returns, well, if you're in control, how do you prevent a 10th planet from returning? Make us an 8-planet system. Because now when Nibiru comes around, it'll be the 9th planet, because Pluto is no longer a planet.
That's
They
true.
want to make the mind up with that, like.
Yeah.
1 minute it's the planet, then next minute it's not.
Yeah, and it was interesting too that, the reason I think it falls under the conspiracy theory category is Pluto becoming a dwarf planet, not a major planet, happened the same time Nibiru happened to be in the news, and people talking about we may have discovered Nibiru. And so it just seems a little coincidental that all of this happened at the same time.
Yeah. Well, something's going on because these astronomers can establish what's going on by the movement and the behavior of planets by some huge astronomical body, because the gravity is going to affect everything. People say that Nibiru is in a huge ecliptical orbit, which is like a kind of, I don't know, like an egg-shaped orbit rather than being a round one.
It could be. But those that are wondering what happened to Tiamat, look at the belt between, I believe it's Mars and Jupiter.
Yeah.
That is the remnants of a planet.
Is that the one that Earth was part of or collided into?
I don't know.
I think they say that, and to balance things out, they built and put the moon in. And I say built because if Tiamat and Earth collided and there was nothing there to maintain the balance, and all of a suddenly the moon appears, there is, the theory of that would explain how the moon sounds hollow when it gets hit by objects and rings like a bell, because what rings like a bell? Metal.
Yeah.
Or so
yeah.
A planet or an object, celestial object, isn't going to be made out of metal looking like dirt on top.
No, that's true.
Yeah. So do we think that the moon's a spaceship, or was it put here by extraterrestrials, or was it built there like the Death Star? What's your opinion?
I feel like because with Tiamat's disappearance and the moon appearing, that somebody put it there. And it very well can be a spaceship, because to me, I know people have tried explaining this to me, but my mind just doesn't wrap around. We have the dark side of the moon that no matter how the moon is in its rotation around the planet, it always is dark to us. We never see what's on the dark side of the moon.
It's dark to us, but it's lit up by the sun.
And so to me, it makes me feel like that's a spaceship or an artificial, because we're rotating around, and you can be on the moon and see Australia, China, North America. So we're obviously spinning, but the moon's not. Explain that.
Well,
there was a way that it was explained to me that it is spinning, but it's spinning in the rate as it's going around us. That we always see that because we're spinning with it. If that makes sense. I know what it sounds like in my head.
The moon doesn't spin; it's in a fixed orbit, so we only ever see one side of the moon. But it does rotate around Earth, unless the only way to counteract that theory is to go with the flat Earth theory. That the moon and sun aren't as big as we think they are, and they actually spin over a disk, which is, the flat Earth.
Yeah. Is that theory?
I'm still not totally sold on the flat Earth, but I do feel like there is more to our planet than what we're told.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, definitely.
Is a different look to it. It may be larger or smaller than well, I don't know if I would say smaller, but it could be larger than we believe it is.
I'm just intrigued with that map that's been released a while ago, where it's meant to be a flat Earth map, and then it's got like all these other places what we think are planets, like names of the planets and everything outside the ice walls, like it's got like Jupiter and stuff like that, the land of Jupiter, and it's got like, oh god, that many I can't even remember, but it's like, it would be amazing if that was actually true, though. Could you imagine if you get through them ice walls, the things that you would see? This could be where all the cryptids are coming from.
And the aliens.
It could be. And the only problem I have with the flat Earth, really, is if the sun is above a flat surface, it would illuminate everything at the same time. So the whole planet would be lit up at the same time.
Not necessarily if it's only a small. Obviously, if the sun's smaller than what they're saying that are and closer to it would only illuminate that place.
They think, with the whole flat Earth theory, they think the sun and the moon are the same size, and they're about 200 miles across, which is nothing really. But if you think about it, if there was something that size, it would only illuminate something locally. So
Yeah.
if we live on this huge plane, which is thousands and thousands of miles across, if you've got something that's illuminating light that's only 200 miles wide, the light isn't going to be able to make it 5, 6, 7,000 miles across the other side of the plane. It would only illuminate something, what they call locally.
Hey, check us out. Mark Sargent would be dead proud of us, Matt.
You would, wouldn't you? Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, there's a few things that do sort of rule out flat Earth. And I had a job a few years ago. I was working in IT for a network communications company that were military based, and my job was actually to monitor and monitor for signal dropout. And they used something called point-to-point radio, and they had to have quite a few radio masts set up in strategic places around the globe, because there's a curvature, and if you're beaming a signal, say, I don't know, that way, and you've got the curvature of the Earth, it's going to get lost in space. So they had to have all these radio masts put, in different places to keep collecting the signal and bouncing it to where it's supposed to be. So if the Earth was flat, they wouldn't need those radio masts. It would just be line of sight.
Yeah, but there's that theory about, it's not a theory, it's apparently pilots, if it was round, they would have to keep, obviously, putting the nose up, or putting the nose down, sorry.
Putting the nose down.
Opposite direction. Blonde moment. Yeah, they would have to, obviously for the curvature, to take in consideration for the curvature. And they don't do that. So there's that theory as well. So
there are pilots out there that are full-on flat earthers as well, believe it or not. So
that also depends on what altitude they're at, because most planes are not high enough to be at the border of the air to space. So they could still be going straight, and it would be within the curvature, so they wouldn't have to adjust.
But they say you can measure the curvature every 20 miles or so. So if you were flying from, say, London Heathrow to, I don't know, JFK, New York City, then that's a fair old distance. So they'd have to keep dipping the nose. But then, having said that, I've flown from London before to New York in the past. And when you're on the planes, I mean, what they tend to do now is the seat in front of you, there'll be a screen on that seat, and you've got a choice. You can either watch movies in the flight, or you can watch the plane. And when it shows a map on the screen when you're flying over the Atlantic, rather than just going in a straight line, which you'd assume would make more sense, the plane actually flies up. It does that sort of shape. And it's the same when you fly back from the US over to the UK. Rather than going in a straight line, it shows on the map that the plane's doing that, which I always thought was a bit strange. So who knows?
One thing I've noticed too, you brought up, with having the sun and moon in the sky. I don't know if it's a Mandela effect or something else, but I was always remembered the sun was up during the day and the moon was only up at night. You never saw both at the same time. But lately, I've been looking up and I can see the moon clear as day in the daytime.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember going to school when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I can still remember seeing the sun and the moon at the same time. So unless it's just in the UK.
Well, I'm not in the UK and I'm seeing it, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, but a long time ago, I mean, when I was a kid, it was a lot longer than what you were a kid, Michael. Oh, by the way, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Michael for a few days ago.
Yeah.
Thank you, but you're not that, our ages are not that far apart.
Oh, we got a question. Come in.
Let's see. Actually, I think it's a comment. The arc on those flight paths represent altitude in that area of the trip.
Maybe. Yeah. I see where he's coming from. Yeah. That's true, actually.
Thank you, Enoch.
You're right there, Enoch. Hennick.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael definitely kept his birthday very quiet, didn't you, Michael? Yeah, anyway, you are younger than us. It's like,
Yes,
how old are you, Matt? 52? 53?
not quite.
Michael's
I'm
the
four-
baby of the three.
I'm 49, Cal, and you're a year behind me.
Yeah, don't keep reminding us.
I'm only 2 years behind Kel, so
Yeah.
2 years, when you get old, that's a lot.
uh,
Huh.
Right, what other conspiracies can we talk about?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Alex put another question in. Should we finish that one off first?
Enoch says, I grew up on an airport and had to make this flight paths for my grandfather on our little trips.
Oh,
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I feel like this is one of those things I don't know that we're ever really truly going to get the answer to, because there's always going to be one side saying one thing, having all the proof. The other side will have something, and it'll raise interesting questions, and it'll just keep going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, okay then. Let's see. Do we believe in a hollow earth?
I believe in an inner Earth. I don't know about.
Yeah, that's probably the same thing. Yeah, similar thing maybe.
Sorry, I just thought that Michael had frozen there. He was thinking.
Yeah, I was like, how do I word this right?
So what's the difference then between a hollow earth and a what earth?
Inner Earth is supposed to be, I suppose it's comparable to that film Journey to the Center of the Earth, where they tunnel underground and all of a sudden they find themselves in another world within the Earth.
Right.
And then you've got lots of theories, haven't you, regarding Antarctica. And people think there is an entrance in the side of a mountain in Antarctica that will take you to inner Earth or hollow Earth. There have been UFO sightings of UFOs disappearing into this big cavernous hole in the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
There's a story. I don't know if it was Admiral Byrd's story, but there's a story that there's supposed to be a huge underground alien base, which is so futuristic. I'm talking like anti-gravity walls and rooms and everything and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know.
Sorry, he's off again.
Musical screens.
Yeah. Wasn't it meant to be like the hole in the center of the earth in the Arctic or something like that? That Admiral Byrd flew over, and that's why he seen lands inside.
Yeah. Now
there was a hole in the ice that he found, or it could have been a cave, and he just didn't realize it was a cave. But flew into it.
Something to do with the Nazis as well. That he saw disc-shaped craft with swastikas on the side. So
New Schwabenland.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Which really is in Antarctica. There really is a New Schwabenland in Antarctica.
Huh.
Which would almost make sense to the whole conspiracy theory behind Adolf Hitler, depending on where you're from.
That he actually was still alive.
Yeah, I mean, I remember talking to my granddad about this years ago, because obviously my granddad, like most of our sort of grandparents, probably fought in the Second World War. And my granddad was in Germany when they apparently found Hitler's body after he apparently shot himself. Wow. And I remember this theory of Hitler disappearing, and I mean, there's theories that he moved to Brazil or Argentina or South America somewhere, and he sort of lived the rest of his days in South America. But I mean, if you think about it, I mean, how far away is Antarctica from South America? Not that far. The tip of South America is only, I think, I don't know, probably less than 1,000 miles away from Antarctica.
Hmm.
So maybe there was something going on in Antarctica, and sort of, Hitler was involved with that, and knew Schwabenland, and who knows?
Well, and the other interesting thing is the German U-boat fleets. There was like so few of them, but it was like everybody would say when they were near Antarctica, there would be U-boat sightings.
Mm.
And so if you're fighting a war, why would you have your U-boats down in an area where there is no conflict?
Mm.
You would have them where the conflict is to defend your land. And so, yeah, what were they defending down there?
Or what were they gaining access to? Maybe the only way to access certain parts of Antarctica are actually under the ice, going deep down, rather than going across land.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, we all, because of our generation, think of Antarctica as this ice field when it really was a tropic island when it first was created. They have maps I've saw that shows Antarctica being an island that had trees and grass and all this wildlife on it. And it's like somehow something happened to where it shifted course and became an ice field.
Mm.
Wow. So how long ago was this supposed to have been?
To be honest, I think
Was it before the Ice Age? Because they reckon there was a pole shift where the pole, and they say we're due one imminently, another pole shift.
I want to say from the maps that I saw, they were after, because it was during the age of exploration where some of these explorers were creating maps that had Antarctica on them. There's a famous one that's, I think it's in the 1500s it was made, that's got Antarctica on it, but yet we're taught in school Antarctica wasn't discovered until fairly recently, like within the last 100, 200 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I
So
remember
how can
that.
it be on a map on
Oh,
sailing
exactly.
ships
Mm.
in the right spot? That was even the bigger thing, is it was shown in the middle of Africa and South America, which is where you would think to look for it.
Mm.
Hmm.
If anyone can hear any snoring, by the way, it's Kel's dog. She's fast. She's fast asleep on the floor, snoring.
Is that
So
what
if
that
you hear
noise
anything,
is?
that's what that noise is. Yeah.
I thought it was Michael's dogs like playing or something.
I heard
No,
some dogs.
they're not in here right now.
All right. Oh my god. Well, on the Hollow Earth thing, what about the Woolpit children, the green children that were found down in was it Woolpit? And one of them died, and one of them's skin eventually changed color, and it says that they lived in the center of the Earth.
Oh yes,
Anybody know
that's
that
right.
one?
They were. What cut they were like? Were they blue or
Green.
something?
They were green.
Green. They were green.
Yeah.
And they turned up in England somewhere, didn't they? And they were
Yeah,
still green.
Woolpit, in the village of
Skin
Woolpit.
gradually changed colour,
I think it
and they
was
went on just to
Woolpit.
marry. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought so.
Did we talk about this on a show? 'Cause
We
I
have mentioned it. We touched on it briefly in a show before a few months ago.
Yeah.
It was like that was the first I had heard of it, and I haven't seen anything about it since. So I'm still not very familiar with it.
It
But
was
that would
in
tie
a
in
few.
with
Go on,
Hollow
Matt.
Earth. I was just saying
Yeah.
that would tie in with the Hollow Earth theory, the inner Earth theory.
Well, I remember reading about it in school books and stuff like that I stole from the library.
Well, to be honest, you guys get taught stuff we don't get taught.
I don't think it's not something that we're taught in schools. It was just like something that were found in these weird books, like that you get from the library and stuff like that. Because I mean, it was always my passion. Like when I was at school, to go and look for strange and unusual things. So I just remember reading about that while looking at the pictures.
But there's so much that goes on that we don't know about, really.
There
Yeah.
is.
Another good story we can talk about, and it's something that Kel and me have been watching recently, is Blind Frog Ranch and all the goings on there. Have you heard of that place, Michael?
I have heard of that place, and Jeff Rennell, the founder and one that runs the eTalk network, has been there, and he was on one of my shows telling how it is active there, but you can't go by the TV shows to get the activity because some of the activity has been slightly, I think he was saying, in a nice way of saying, embellished to get ratings.
Mm.
And it's not totally accurate, but there is stuff that's going on there.
Mm. Well, I sent the son a message to try and get him on the show, but I've never heard nothing back yet. So,
if you want Jeff on the show, I can reach out to him.
I mean, we've seen quite a few episodes of it now. Kel's seen more than me, but I knew about it before we started watching the TV series over here. But what I thought was fascinating was the metal that they found, which they found in a rock. And they extracted this metal out of a rock, and as soon as he put it in his hand, it just turned to liquid metal. You know,
oh God, I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, because it was only meant to be like found. Well, it's got to be smelted. There's a process to make that metal, and it was found in the 1800s or something. But it was meant to be the Aztecs that put it there, supposedly.
Yeah.
Wow.
It begins with a G. The metal. Can't remember the name.
Gallium.
Gallium. Yeah.
Yeah. An interesting thing to note is, I don't know if you all remember Pangea.
Yeah.
The landmass that we all were before we split.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody was posing an interesting theory of Pangea happened to be longer than we thought because it would explain why the pyramids are so identical. Because they would just walk over, see it, take it back home, and be like, hey, you know, here's these pyramids over here. You know, these structures are pretty cool. You know, we could do that. And it was like they were saying how the land masses were one mass, so the technology was shared out. And as the land split, they took them and created different styles. Like, I was watching a show recently, I think it was actually Josh Gates, who pointed out that the base of the Egyptian pyramids and the pyramids in Mexico are identical. What's above it is altered, but then again, it's because you're in a different area now. And so they were like saying, yeah, the base of the pyramids are all identical, but then they take a cultural viewpoint where Egypt goes up to an 8-pointed top, and Mesopotamia is a step pyramid up. The Urts or ziggurats, they have their look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because sorry, Kel.
That's okay.
I was just going to mention about the so-called, you know, if you look at the Grand Canyon has got something that looks like the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid.
Are you psychic or what?
Is that what you were just going to say?
Yeah.
I was fixing to go there too.
See, we're all on the same frequency, aren't we?
Yeah, they're like the Temple of Isis and whatever else. And there's one that looks like a pyramid, and one that looks a bit like a eroded Sphinx. Is it Sphinx or
Sphinx? It all looks very eroded.
Pronounce it? Oh my God.
Sphinx.
Yeah, I can't get my words out tonight. My brain's gone.
But the interesting thing, you know, I could easily dismiss, a lot of structures looking similar, because you could say, oh, somebody built that to be a mock up of this, or was having fun. But when you go and say there's a no fly zone, there's a no entrance zone, then I start to look and go, why? Why is
What are
it
they
that
hiding?
they don't want seen here? What? And it's like, yeah, it just adds fuel to everyone wanting to go there. It's like,
Exactly.
when you're a kid, don't put your hand on the hot stove. Why? You put your hand on the hot stove to find out.
Yep.
They're definitely hiding something.
Well, they said it's bats. That's the reason why you can't go down there.
Bats
are an excuse for everything.
Yeah. It pretty much is. They're either going to say it's vampire bat or too much of their quinine that they're making, so it becomes toxic at certain levels.
Yeah.
So
Do you
they'll
when
say,
you
oh,
said
there's too
vampire
much of that.
bats, I just like visualize like Dracula and stuff like hiding down there.
Probably is. There probably
You
is
never
some
know.
Transylvania
Stranger things
stuff.
have happened.
But I liked on my show with George Mitrovich, he made a really strong point of on our Mississippi River, we have mining camps near copper mines that they found old tools at. And they wrote it off as being, the mining age. Well, go back in time to the Bronze Age. Look at the Phoenician coins. They had the Mississippi Valley and Mississippi River on the back of the coins. And he says that's because that's where they were getting the copper from. It was the largest source of copper and bronze. So why wouldn't you make a map to, so you could find it? And then when we left the Bronze Age to go to the Stone Age or Iron Age, well, what's the point of bringing, of staying there? So they left their tools because you don't need them anymore. And it was left alone until Lewis and Clark and other explorers come through and say, hey, look, there's a river here. And it makes total sense, but then it shows America was found in the BCs and it was colonized actually in the BCs.
Yeah. It's
Which
like they'll
makes
say
us older than you.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, like, they'll say, like, Australia and America was discovered at this age. Well, no, they were always there. We just didn't know they were there. That's the difference.
Yeah, we had the Vikings long before Australia was found.
And
apparently the Phoenicians and, those cultures.
True.
But here's an interesting thing that I've come across recently is the pyramids. Someone has pointed out, even Egypt at one point, the pyramids were built over aquifers in the ground. So
built
there
over
would
what?
be
Sorry about that.
Water.
Well, yeah, water. Obviously, aqua got that bit, but what?
Water springs underground, like underground water.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I haven't got my brain on today.
And so it's interesting because someone at one point was saying the pyramids run off of water power and creates an energy. Well, what's needed? Well, you need the water. Why is Egypt the way it is? Well, the water disappeared when they moved. And yes, they did move a river, the Nile, to build a temple. So the aquifer dried up. And it's has a different energy field now than the other pyramids that still has their water source. And it's interesting too because these aquifers were built on ley line crossings, and the main embodiment of the pyramids, because we all know there's more than 3 pyramids in Egypt, there's more than 3 in Mexico and all over the world, but they all, the 3 main ones, line up to Orion.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, they do.
Belt.
Yeah. Now, what do you
that's
think?
right. Yeah.
What do you think the connection there is? I mean, we all know that the Egyptians used to worship the stars and all that kind of stuff. But do you think there is a connection specifically with Orion's belt?
So I am of the opinion, back, with the Anunnaki days, I feel like a couple of the tribes that were here, helping mankind and developing mankind, because I do feel like we were created. We weren't just appearing. But I feel like there's people who have said Lyra and Orion are 2 of the root races for the planet. Well, if you're here and you're, colonizing, what's the first thing colonists do? They build something to notify, to say, here's our colony. Well, if you're coming from Orion, what's one thing you'll notice? Hey, Orion's belt. Let's go land there. In which case, I learned something that will, Matt, you're going to love this.
Oh, yeah.
The Nazca lines.
Oh, yeah.
They're only visible from space.
That's a good one.
They're borders. And inside the Nazca line, when your frequency is up to the right point, is a culture. They never left.
Wow.
They're still there. But we can't see them because we're not at that level. We're not visible
to resonate at that frequency, at those levels. Yeah. Wow.
And that's why the lines never move. They never, you could put a tornado through, but the line will stay the same because it's a border. There's an energetic border there.
Wow.
I thought that was interesting to think inside, like the spider, inside of it is a culture in existence. And that's why UFOs take off and land there. Is they're not just hanging out and going, oh, look, there's a spider here. They're going home or stopping at an outpost and going somewhere else.
Yeah. That's interesting. And where are the Nazca? Are they in Peru? Is it Peru, the Nazca lines?
I believe some of them are in Peru, but they're all in South America, and they're all in desert area.
Yeah.
Which was once lush land. And so one thing we've noticed in even our time is when you mess with the energies, the climate changes. So it's very possible it was lush and it's now desert because somebody altered the energy there.
Wow.
Yeah, once they were digging in Newcastle where I live, and apparently they got down and they realised that so far down that we were once a tropical island or place. So obviously there must have been a hell of a pole shift from us to go from obviously from where we would have been, the Caribbean type of thing, climate, to freezing cold. So it must have been a hell of a pole shift or something like that. So yeah.
The only thing I'm curious about when we talk about pole shifts is I've never quite understood when they say the shift does north become south, or is it north becomes west and then west becomes south, and it's rotating that way? Because
If it's doing a 180-degree flip.
Right. If it's going
Okay.
180, then that would be a major rock, and
Yeah.
that would be almost cataclysmic, I would think. But
Well,
if we've had pole shifts, they're, we're still here, so they can't be that cataclysmic. So that's why I wonder, is it really north has been shifting towards west, and so west is going to become north, and we're going to get a new north.
Yeah.
I do know that the people have been saying it's been slightly shifting for a while now, because obviously where the sun supposedly rises and falls, apparently is slightly different from years ago. Shoot me if I'm wrong.
No, I totally agree. And I mean, I think they calculated that north has been every year is like, what is it, like 1/100th of a degree off? So it's constantly moving. It's just not at a super fast rate. So, it's not like we're going to go, oh, hey, next week, we're going to be 20 degrees off, prepare yourself.
Because I think there's two North Poles, isn't there? You've got the geographical North Pole, and then you've got the magnetic North Pole, and magnetic North Pole is forever fluctuating.
Right.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing something about that.
Yeah, so...
Which begs the question, then, is it just the magnetic poles that are shifting and the geographic poles are going to stay the same? In which case, we're not switching hemispheres, which I think a lot of people are freaking out about, because they're going, wait, northern hemisphere is now going to be southern, and our summer is now going to become winter. And it's like, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think the magnetics are just going to swap. In which case, all our instruments are going to go wonky, because when they say fly north, your compass is going to have you flying south.
Yeah.
It's gone very quiet.
Well, we're thinking, aren't we? Our brains are...
I know. Oh, here we go. Enoch says polarity will change, seasons will change, annual schedule, water levels will rise, and in certain areas, the new Earth will be exposed. It's what's predicted. Lots of laughs. Who knows? And what's interesting about that is, I don't know if y'all remember, but growing up, there was a cartoon called Thundar, the Barbarian. In which case, the Earth went through a pole shift, the land masses cracked up, the water levels rose, new islands formed, and it was like we were thrown back into like medieval sorcery age in this cartoon. But as I was reading Enoch's comment, it's like it triggered in my head going, that almost sounds like the opening intro to that cartoon. In which case, have they been warning us this was coming all along?
Maybe.
Sorry, I just got distracted there. I've just off the topic. I just seen and think something on my phone pop up saying NASA's just announced that there's 140 odd, I can't remember if it was foot or mile asteroid or something heading towards Earth. Anybody heard about that?
I think there was two actually. And somebody made the joke. I believe it was Gilliland. I don't know if you're familiar with him over in Oregon, but he was saying the asteroid is going to come close. So if you don't hear from him after this weekend, the asteroid hit us, and that's that. Or if you hear from me next week, it means the asteroid missed.
Huh. Yeah. I think I heard about that. There's a
Here's a
thing, like,
interesting one too. Is talking about objects in space. Is in April we have the total lunar eclipse, which is a new term to me. I always heard solar and lunar eclipse, but never heard of total. And when I looked it up, it is a very rare occurrence. It happens like once every, I think it was either once every 70 or 170 some years, where the moon totally blocks out the sun, so to speak. So it's supposed to create darkness.
Is that
Darkness.
a total eclipse, though? Isn't that what we call a total eclipse of the sun? I don't know what a total eclipse of the moon would be, whether it would turn blood red or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know, because it would explain the blood moon that everybody talks about in legends and lore.
I seen that a few years ago. I got some photos of that. The blood moon.
But this is supposed to be where there is zero sunlight coming from behind the moon.
Wow. We've never had that before, because they've always had the ring that sort of goes around the outside.
And that's what drew my attention to it, was, and I was like, so that's why they call it total lunar eclipse, and why everybody is talking about, oh my God, we got this eclipse coming. Because I was like, it's an eclipse. What difference does it make? We get them all the time, but yeah, I had to look it up and find out it's a total blockage of the sun.
Wow.
And I don't know how long it's supposed to last. I haven't really. Nobody
it's
really.
Normally a minute or two, isn't it? It's not long before. Because the thing is, the moon is constantly moving. I don't know if any of you guys have ever looked at the moon through a telescope, and as soon as you frame the shot, it's moved away.
Yeah, it does it when you've got like your smartphone, you zoom right the way in. It's like, obviously, as soon as you get it in the shot, it just moves.
Yeah.
Even if you get one of those fancy telescopes that auto tracks,
they can track it, can't they?
You'll see them slightly moving to keep it in frame.
Yeah. Well, because the universe is moving, isn't it? Apparently, and
it is. And I love the fact that we were taught we are in a circular orbit around the sun, but we're actually not. They actually have shown that the sun is like a bullet moving through space, and we are like the tail, like you see, like in the movie Matrix, the bullets, how they had
you see the sort of shock waves from the bullet behind it.
Yeah.
We're all moving on that wave, that curvature behind the sun, so we're all like chasing the sun through space.
You see, you would have thought that you would have felt the gravity of that. You know what I mean? The movement.
Well, but that's why they put the moon where it is to counter the gravity, to keep it constant.
Yeah.
That's why on water it feels so much different, and that's why astronauts, when they train for space, train in water, is because the feeling is much different.
So do you think astronauts do go to space, or do you think that's all they're hoaxing it? The reason I say that, there have been a couple of incidents where astronauts have been doing spacewalks or whatever, and their whole breathing, their whole helmet and everything is filled up with water. And NASA's excuse is, it's all to do with the cooling system in their sort of breathing apparatus that they've got. But then other people are saying, all the conspiracy theorists are saying, well, no, it's because they've never been to space, that all of the NASA images are hoaxed and it's all been done underwater in a pool.
So I feel like we have been to space. Whether or not, every astronaut we see filmed is in space or not, I'm not going to say for sure 100% guarantee that yes to that. There probably have been instances of astronauts probably being near Vegas being filmed, because that's where they film the Mars movies and space movies, because the landscape is so similar. So, could they be there? Yes. Now, as for the liquid, there was a movie that came out, I believe, in the 80s,
The
maybe
Abyss.
90s, The Abyss.
Yeah, they had to breathe that liquid, didn't they?
Yeah.
In order to.
And
Yeah.
I talked to some people who were in the Navy and who, are divers, and they said that is 100% accurate. They have helmets that fill up with liquid that they breathe, that their body is trained to breathe to handle the pressure. It alleviates the pressure of where they're at because they're so deep. The lungs are able to get oxygen only from the water. A tank, normal tank, would not hold. So,
Okay. Well, my take on it is, if we have been to space, how did the obviously the Van Allen belts, the radiation from them? That's one thing. Another thing is, why have they lost everything? Like all the moon like landings and
all the
stuff like that.
technology.
Apparently they've lost everything, even down to the original recordings and stuff like that. It just, to me, it just seems too much of a coincidence.
Yeah.
So,
well, I could answer that with a 2-word answer, but I probably would get us in trouble with that. That would be shadow government.
Yeah.
That went in under the guys like Smithsonian type attitude of, out of national security, we are going to take this information and you now have to sign a non-disclosure agreement under penalty of death, and all the information gets hidden away because they don't want known what's going on in those areas. True. However, though, there are images. I mean, we do see, we can look up and see, stuff in space. So, I've seen with my naked eye satellites in space moving across the night sky in an arc. So,
I've seen the ISS with my naked eye fly over.
Right. Oh, so we are in space. But, is everything that we're being shown in space? Maybe not. But we are in space. I can agree. And like Matt, I've seen the ISS too. And it is quite a, something to see with the naked eye if you know what you're looking for and you know where it's at. Because if you're just looking through the sky, you're going to see a bright light and go, well, that's a bright star. No, it actually is a space station. It can be misidentified. And that's one of the things, too, I think, that goes on a lot, is a lot of things get misidentified. And is it done on purpose? I think some of it is. So we stop asking questions like the Roswell crash being a weather balloon. I mean, look at how that silenced people about it mainstream-wise for, what, 30, 40 years before they started talking about it again and saying, wait a minute, this story no longer holds water. We're not going to buy it.
Yeah, it's something not quite right. It's like when you watch rockets launch, isn't it? They go up and then they curve right over like that when you watch them.
They do.
There are people that say, oh, they don't actually make it into orbit. They curve over and they down them in the ocean somewhere. But there was some footage that, funnily enough, Kel and me were watching a few months ago, and it was a SpaceX rocket. It was one of Elon Musk's rockets that went up. It had a fault with it, had a problem with it, so they either blew the rocket up or something happened. And it looked like it was passing through water, like it was penetrating through water. Do you remember that, Kel?
Yeah.
Well, you have to think our atmosphere generates rain. Well, where does that rain come from. There has to be
Well, the clouds are
molecules
supposed to
around.
suck it from the sea, and then it condenses.
Right, but what I'm saying is, so water's evaporating up. So you got your water here, the ocean. It's evaporating up. It hits something to then create the cloud level and the moisture in the air that comes back as rain and starts the cycle over and over.
Yeah.
Well, I think what it is there's a layer in the ozone that is like kind of maybe hydrogen and oxygen, and when the water hits it, it's like, okay, we got to drip off this much. Well, what happens when water gets in the cold or extreme heat? It either turns into mist or freezes into ice. So the clouds could be where it's still in the hot area, so it's creating mist clouds or steam clouds, which we've been able to do on land. And then when the water level's too much in there, what happens? It lets it go in the form of rain.
Yeah. Well,
Which I know right now, I just realized that makes rain sound so much like a computer program running. So there could be a point right there for we are in a simulation.
Yeah.
Could be. You never know. I've just noticed we're just over the hour mark, and I've got to go somewhere after this. So, we may as well leave the chat there unless anybody's got anything else to add.
Oh, that went fast.
I know, it did. But yeah. So who we got on? We're not here next week, are we, Michael?
Nope. Next week we are off for a week, and then we have. Well, are we spilling who our guests are going to be in advance?
You can do, yeah.
So Wednesday, or not Wednesday. Yeah, I'm looking at I'm on the wrong day. Thursday, April 4th at 3 o'clock, back to 9 o'clock for the UK.
Yay.
Yay.
Well, Wendy Clark.
Oh, Wendy Clark. Could be good.
And then we have on the 11th is Dan Rickards. Night Watching Para Australia.
Cool.
And then we finish off the month of April on the 18th with Vicky Joy Anderson.
Cool. Sounds like a good lineup then.
So all of you watching this episode, you just got yourself bonus points because we have not announced this yet. You got spoiler.
Spoiler. Well, it's been fantastic discussing series we used to. And I'm sure we'll do it again sometime in the future if any other guests drop out.
Or we could just schedule it, you know.
Yeah, we could do. I reckon we should do it once in a while. Yeah.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
We definitely should.
Yeah.
I think it's more fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, seeing that I like talking to a guest. That's fun too.
Oh, I enjoy the guests, but I think it's fun every once in a while to stop.
Yeah.
And just hang out and let everyone, get to know where we're at and what we're interested in at the time.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Well, it's been a great show again, and thank you to Matt Atkinson and Michael Koff once again. It's been a fun show, and
yes, thank you for having us.
Yes.
Yeah,
I can't thank myself, can I?
You can thank yourself for being here.
I'll just take a bow. There you go. But we'll join you in 2 weeks, and I'll let Michael and Matt say the goodbyes, and I'll say goodbye now.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for watching, and see you
Yes.
next time.
Thank you to the chat room. You guys are awesome. Thank you to everyone watching. And we will see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Have a great one, guys.